couple of things right off the bat. Uh, One of my Creative Labs headsets that's about 15 years old or so died. I do have another one that I had been using, but a lot of pops and crackles in it. I don't know why. I'm looking for a solution to the problem, so I'm trying out a different headset right now and hope that'll make things better. I've got like a $700 microphone over there, but it's tube type. It's really big. It's more for my guitars and music than for on the bench, but I do have to find a solution for it. Okay, yesterday was a red letter day for Dragon Link around here. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Dragon Link support doesn't understand it, but I was playing around down in here with the Yahoo type telemetry in this section right here. And right here, they tell you to go to this page and download this firmware for the Wi-Fi module in the Dragon Link. What this firmware does is it passes the data to the ground station and also into the radio for Yahoo telemetry. I'm not going to get into this right at this point. I'll do a video on this separately when I get it working right. But I did download this firmware right here. I will show it to you. This one right here, Dragon Link version 3 internal 2.60.2 binary for flashing to the Wi-Fi module that's in the Dragon Link. I don't know why. Well, I got a good idea. Dragon Link doesn't verify my thoughts on this, but frequently in low-level electronics, when read-only memories are flashed, you send out signals that change the memory address that you're writing to. It just goes right down the line through the addresses. And then there's also the signal that's coming in for the data that you're flashing to that address. And it's all done on a timing loop. There's no signals back from the ROM, read-only memory, whatever, that you're flashing, telling it, okay, I got that, go on to the next memory address. It's just done on a straight up timing scheme. You're going to send a signal every 25 milliseconds and you expect the memory address to increment up in that time period and everything goes well. And it does most of the time. But with our tabletop computers that are doing multi-functions, etc., sometimes they get bogged down and just hesitate for a second while they're reorganizing memory, etc., etc., etc. There's various reasons for it. And that interrupts that flashing scheme. There's no errors come up. It just doesn't really get a good flash. I don't know, and I'm going to be nice to Dragon Link support. I don't know that my module came with a bad Wi-Fi module flash in it from the get-go. I may have started playing with some of this on the first few days. I can't remember. It's 2 weeks and 3 days ago. What I do know is I flashed this. Everything started working. Started working well yesterday. I had a great day yesterday after 2 weeks and 2 days of kind of floundering around getting this Wi-Fi and like I told Dragon Link support, I never got the Bluetooth connected. But flashing this version onto this board, starting to go through this setup to through the Yahoo telemetry, made hordes of differences in my uh, success with the rest of the Dragon Link. Let's look at that real quick and I'll show you. Uh, Well, I can't really show you the flash of the firmware, but I can show you the results of it. And real quick, I'll just show you the setup of the transmitter and receiver is all the same. Here's your transmitter. Here's the way I'm setting it up now. Don't do anything in here. I'm leaving it this at default, although I think this was a default check and made the thing beep when I didn't have a good control signal going to it. Some of these things, when I've been flashing back and forth between the November 2020 firmware and the beta firmware, some things stay, some don't. Uh, so I'm not sure I ever got back to a straight out of the box. I did take videos of this when I started, so I could go back and look at that, but that's not needed here. On the RF tab, I did move it to 9 times like I'm told. Normal, bidirectional, everything down here the same. Under power, this is one of the things that just, I've set these to auto, and no matter how much I go back and forth between beta and November 2020 firmware, this stays. That's fine with me. I'm hoping this will make it ramp up and down power on its own without me having to do a thing, all the way from the lowest power it can do to the highest power. That's my hope. In here, I did set a different ID. I don't have people flying Dragon Link with me around here, so I don't have to really worry about that. But setting a unique ID here can keep your signals separated. I do set S-Bus here. In external connections, I have radio modem for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, Telemetry for the expansion connector. Again, I have flashed this ESP32 GPIO1 firmware, but I haven't got it working yet. I will do a video on that when I get that working, and that'll be the end of Dragon Link videos for me. I will have touched everything. I do set it 57600 here. It seems to work for me. And we're using USB function, the GUI. The USB is used to connect to the graphical user interface, and Mavlink decoding is off. And that's the way I have this set up, and really all you have to do. Here's the way I have the receivers set up. I have 4 of them. One came with the Dragon Link, then I ordered 3 more. Fail safe, no output. I want the flight controller to handle the fail safes, so I set that this way. I put S-Bus on pin 1 of the module, and I just set the rest of them to their default channels. I'm not using RSSI yet. I am using 12 channels over here. I hope that will give me 12 channels into the flight controller instead of 8. I haven't played with that yet, but that's what I'm suspecting. Down here, I do change this from a GPS to not connected, and then the EXP3 connector, serial in, serial out, clear to send, request to send. In the general settings, I have set max power again. I am hoping that both these transceivers, the one on the TX16S and the transceiver on the platforms, both ramp up and down in transmit power. On the radio modem side here, I did set 57600 and clicked Mavlink decode off. That's all it's really required. Okay, let's shut this down. We don't need this anymore. We'll come in here. I have to disconnect the Ethernet connector off the back of my desktop computer because the DHCP dynamic host in the router assigns IP addresses, and it'll assign an IP address that this Dragon Link module actually needs. So you do need to disconnect your computer from all external networking cables, and right here I'll have to disconnect the Wi-Fi I was using just now to get out onto the internet to show you the Dragon Link RC site documentation. But now I'm not going to click connect automatically right now. I'm going to click, well, first I'm going to click forget that, because I know there's a password in there that's not in there the first time you connect that I want you to be aware of. Connect. This is where you put in Dragon Link. It's a capital D for Dragon and a capital L for Link. One word. Draskin Link. All right, let's take that. Jiminy Cricket. Guess it's nice getting old, but there we go. Now we have more of the Dragon Link word there, and we'll click connect. We're 8 days past my 68th birthday. 50 years ago yesterday, I woke up in Navy boot camp in Orlando, Florida. So 1 week after I turned 18, I was in Navy boot camp. This is going to do some percolating here, and you notice up here, it just disconnected. When it does that, it doesn't seem to pick up the proper IP address. Although this says connected, secured, and gives you properties, when you come into these properties, you're not going to see any IP addresses down here. That pretty much assures you that your connection was not good. I'll try one more time here, and I won't have to put in that password this time when I click connect. I'll try one more time here, and this right up here underneath the Wi-Fi button needs to stay this way without the radio symbol here or the locked grayed out. If it doesn't, and it may not in this attempt, once you get the Bluetooth and or Wi-Fi connected, it seems pretty secure. Getting them connected is a little bit of a problem sometimes. And I find I have to cycle the TX16S and the Dragon Link transmitter. In this case, this time I didn't. Now when I go into the properties and scroll down, you can see here are the IP addresses that the module wants by default. By the way, this 192.168.4.1, if you have that new firmware on there, you can go in with a browser and configure this module now. I'll show you that in a second. But now that the Wi-Fi is connected, you come into Mission Planner. Oops, it's just going to take off automatically, as you see right there, and connect up. And if you look down here in the ground station link quality, you see it's 98. It's really good. I never had, you've seen other videos I've made with this over the last 2 weeks where this is just all over the place and it drops connections, etc., etc. The telemetry would stop, but the Bluetooth was still connected, all that kind of Bluetooth. Wi-Fi was still connected, all that kind of stuff in my videos, but I was getting enough pass-through data that I felt I could fly it. Well, after updating the firmware and the Wi-Fi module, I'm getting this kind of a connection, and it's just, it seems beautiful to me. And if we look up here at the link stats for the raw radio, you still do have packet loss, but look at that, I'm at 1.8K bytes per second. 1.9. Really a lot of data going back and forth. I don't worry about lost packets because I know error correcting is resending those and I'm not losing anything. So everything here is working beautifully now. I wished this had happened a few days or a couple of weeks earlier and I wouldn't have been so stressed for 2 weeks, but I was pretty stressed at times. I'm going to disconnect from this, but first I'm going to show you right here in this drop down window. It says UDP 14550. That's what we connect with. Let's see if this is going to let me put it back in. If I click connect, yes. This is the way it will start up the first time, and you do have to put in 14550 in here, not 14500 this time, and click OK. After that, it will take off doing a UDP connection. After it makes this connection one time, as you saw when I connected with the Wi-Fi and then opened Mission Planner, it just came up and said, boom, I see everything I need. You don't have to click anywhere. You don't have to put any information in. I'm just going to connect for you and do everything. I like that. And I'll illustrate that again in just a second after this. See, this gets completely in. Disconnect here, close Mission Planner, reopen Mission Planner, and the magic will just happen. Boom, boom, Mavlink connecting. Oh, hush, radio. Uh, and this is what I've had all day yesterday. I had such a feeling of relief yesterday getting this working for the first time in 2 weeks, 2 days. I just went to sleep last night and I slept peacefully. It's been kind of spending what, 500, $800 on this and hoping it fit what I needed and wasn't for 2 weeks was just really stressful. So this is how it's working now. There's not a lot of backflips to do. All of the stuff I've been doing the last 2 weeks just came to fruition when I updated the firmware in the Wi-Fi module. There's a little question about doing that, so I'm going to leave that alone for right now. I will address that later. But watch this. I'm going to disconnect with Mission Planner. I'm going to go back into Windows 10 Wi-Fi, and I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi. I'm going to go into Windows 10 Bluetooth. I'm going to turn Bluetooth on, and I've already paired the Dragon Link module, and you'll see right here, it's now connected and paired. So now, if we go into Device Manager in Windows 10 and look at our COM ports, we have two serial over Bluetooth COM ports created. Oops, excuse me, 17 and 20. So now, armed with that, if we go into Mission Planner, of course, it's not going to pick up UDP anymore automatically, although it did try to look as it opened up right here if it had what it needed here. We have those COM ports, and 17 is labeled as standard serial over Bluetooth. I'm going to click that. On both the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, I found it doesn't seem to matter what the baud rate is. I'm going to click connect here on 57600, which matches what was in the transmitter and receiver. And look, there it goes. 100% ground control station link quality over Bluetooth, and off to the races, pulling in perimeters. Yesterday was the first time I ever got the Bluetooth module to connect, which Dragon Link support told me, we haven't had Bluetooth problems in over 2 years, because I had mentioned that I saw them on YouTube. There's not many videos been made on this stuff in the last 2 years. I don't know why. It would seem with all the new fixes, somebody would have been telling us about it. That's what I'm trying to do. There you go. There's a Bluetooth connection. When I upgraded the firmware on the Wi-Fi/Bluetooth module, the Bluetooth started working. Uh, so there that is. So now I have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. I also connected to this with my Android cell phone with Mission Planner on it. It works perfectly. I can be connected with my cell phone Bluetooth and with my ground station Wi-Fi at the same time. It all works. I did go ahead. I had been testing this on this bench computer and also on my Toshiba notebook ground station that I take into the field, and on my other computer across the room, which is basically my personal computer. This on the bench is for two things: my work on the bench, electronics, and also it's what we would call it, uh, a sound studio. I have sound studio software on this and high level analog to digital converters for my music. But this is all working now magically after flashing the Wi-Fi module. Real quick, I'm going to show you that. Oh, there's going to be a problem here. I can go from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth, but I can't go back to, and this will probably make me out a liar today, I can't go back and connect Wi-Fi without cycling the system. We'll try it right here for kicks and grins. But for some reason yesterday, and it may be, I don't know, because my phone was connected. So see, now I can click connect automatically here. Let's see if it actually did. It says it did. Let's go back into Mission Planner and see if it did this time. I told you it would make me out a liar. So because we weren't default UDP, I do have to put it in again. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to go to, oops, there's your 14550. Click, and you see connection failed. I don't know why it won't. I will have to cycle the radio here. Receiver still connected. Yes, I know, radio. And turn it back on. Welcome to OpenTX. And you see the Wi-Fi dropped, and I no longer have an IP address here. But you remember I did click the connect automatically, trying to move all this along more quickly. And if we click on this now, we see we do have those IP addresses reestablished. Let's see what happens if we go into Mission Planner now. And again, if I go 115.200 and click connect, oops. Yeah, this is what it was doing, has been doing. You just got to go in there and keep. It says it's connected, but there's no telemetry going across it. So I will disconnect. I'm going to go ahead and recheck connect automatically. It's got the password in there. What I'm trying to do here is show you how easily this can work, where you can turn on the radio, bring up your ground station. It's going to connect automatically. And when you go in the Mission Planner, that UDP is going to do everything automatically. It's just whiz bang, bam, bam, bam. I guess what everybody thought it should be doing for me from the start, but wasn't. Oh, no, I'm going to have to cycle the radio again. And see, it's dropped out here, but it just reconnected because of me checking automatic connect. But I'm going to have to cycle the TX16S again. So there's still some flakiness in it, but welcome to OpenTX. Nothing like it was. Okay. See, now the Dragon Link says it's connecting again, but I don't see anything up here. Yeah, see, it's got the connect button here, but it's saying connecting here, but it's not. That could be a Windows 10 problem for all I know and have nothing to do with Dragon Link. That's why I just keep resetting the Dragon Link transmitter on the back of the radio and trying again. I can't tell you that you have to do it once, twice. You see, there it is. It dropped again. It dropped, and there it is. It's connecting again. I can't explain this. It says it's got the IP address again. Norton complains that a Dragon Link module shouldn't have a password of Dragon Link. That's not too grand, but we won't worry about that right now. And there it is. Boom, boom, boom. I cannot tell you why the Wi-Fi module in the Dragon Link and Windows 10 didn't get along with each other. It could be one side or the other or both. But you also notice here, this time I connected 115.200. It didn't make a darn bit of difference. You can change this value, but I don't know that it's actually changing. I don't know if UDP uh, sends the baud rate over as part of it. There's the Dragon, Norton saying the Dragon Link has a weak password again. And look, the connection did drop. We have no link quality anymore. There it comes back. So that module out there is kind of going back and forth between working and not working for some reason. And there it is again. Boom, boom. So that module, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to go out here. You can see our IP addresses are gone again off the Dragon Link, but it thinks it's connected. I'm going to go back out here and I'm going to click disconnect and I'm going to leave this connect automatically unchecked. It shouldn't have a thing to do with it. I'm going to click connect manually again. It shouldn't have a thing to do with it. And this should work more elegantly, as we say in the computer field. But it isn't. There's still seems to be some small problems with it. I consider them small. And if it doesn't do what I want to this time again, I will recycle the transmitter again. Eventually, it does get back into a wonderful connection. There we are, our IP addresses again, and we go into Mission Planner. Click Connect. 14550. Okay, connection failed. Look at that. Ah, this is just irritating. And again, our IP addresses have fallen off the Wi-Fi, which supposedly is still connected. You don't have to do this. I'm going to click disconnect here. I'm going to cycle the TX16S yet again. I didn't count how many times that is. Welcome to OpenTX. Let it come up. Tell you the truth, I've found in the past, I've only been working with this for about 24 hours now in a working form, that letting the radio sit there for 60 seconds or so before you do anything seems to help settle things down. I don't know where the problem is. It might not be in the Dragon Link. It might be in the TX16S. We've got so many components here interacting with each other. TX16S, the Dragon Link, the Wi-Fi module in the Dragon Link, Windows 10. I don't know. And it's hard to, for anybody, it would be hard for anybody to figure this out. On the other end, on the platform end across the room, I do not have to cycle the receiver. We'll click connect again. I really do think, as much as I hesitated just then while I was talking, that it's going to work this time. But you see, I went from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth and then tried to come back to Wi-Fi, and it was kind of flaky there for quite a period of time. So I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to show you what I'm doing. Again, we have our IP addresses. We'll go into Mission Planner. And Mission Planner, of course, POW. Sees it's in UDP mode when on startup. It knows previously it was on port 14550, and off it goes. I honestly think this connection will be bulletproof for the duration of this connection. It seemed to be yesterday. I let it sit on the bench for a half hour, 45 minutes. It just kept working. I was a very happy person. And again, I cannot tell you if I got a Wi-Fi module from the factory that was slightly glitched up in firmware. I cannot remember if during the first few days I started to upgrade the firmware and glitched it up myself. That's a possibility. I won't say it wasn't, but I do pretty much know. Oh, look at this. Voltage 15.22 volts. I happen to know I have my voltage fail safe set to 15.2. So any second now I should get a battery fail safe up here on the screen. Well, any second when it drops 0.01 volts more, which should happen here. So I cannot tell you if I glitched it up, if it come glitched from the factory, but I can tell you yesterday when I upgraded the firmware in the Wi-Fi module, this is the results. Uh, and while this is working, I do want to see if I do get my battery fail-safe here. Real quick, we'll run out. I don't know if I can do this while it's connected or not. We'll see. I'm going to run out to my browser and go to 192.168.4.1. Yes, you can. I don't know if I interrupted the stream out there. Admin is the username, and of course the password is that same dragon link with a capital D and a capital L. Click. With the updated firmware, you can come in here and change some of this stuff. You could change the access point ID. Here's the password for the access point. Uh, I could change that. I may change that later and play with it. But right down here, UDP remote port 14550 is where you get that port value that you have to put in when you connect. I suppose I haven't seen any documentation on this. I suppose you could come in here and say you only want I/O with the ground control station via Wi-Fi. You could only want to do TCP, and then of course this would be your local port for TCP 5760 instead of that 14500 that is the um, way the Wi-Fi module comes by default. But with the other version of the firmware, I can come in here and get inside the Wi-Fi / Bluetooth module now. And you can't seem to with the other firmware. And you can see here, everything stayed connected. I am very, very confident. I have felt really great the last 24 hours after 16 days of fighting this thing and it just not doing what it should do. 12 satellites even here in the basement right now. I like that. I, I, I do want to see. Oh, there's your 15.2. I didn't fail safe. Maybe it has to go 15.19. I think that's what my failsafe is set at. Actually, you can get into it quicker right here in the failsafe. Oh, it's set for 15 volts. That's not what I want. I want 15.2 volts. That might cause a failsafe when this drops down again, but that is what I want. 15.2. I might change that later. Yes, that stayed. And I do want to do a return to launch. I will be turning this feature on, ground control station fail safe, where I'll be flying out and just letting it fail safe on the ground control station to see uh, what the range is. And if you come in here to battery, you'll see that the battery low voltage is now 15.2 here, where it triggers the low battery fail safe. There's 15.2 again. It must have to go slightly below 15.2, or maybe I need a reboot. I can come in here and arm and turn on the motor across the room a little bit, use up a little more voltage. 15.8, 15.5, and you see, boom, I got my battery fail-safe that I was looking for. So that is working for me. Just a couple of little side tidbits there. So to finish up, recap, for whatever reason, when I reflashed the firmware in the Wi-Fi module on the Dragon Link, everything worked. I wished it had worked this way day one. Maybe they should start shipping with that firmware in it. I don't know. It's not my place to tell somebody what to do. Inside the documentation, I'll just shut all this down because you've seen this working. And again, this is where that address 192.168.4.1 is, where you can configure that. I'm going to come in here real quick. Oops, that wasn't where I wanted to click. I want to disconnect that, and I want to reconnect my Wi-Fi across the room, because in the Dragon Link documentation, if you come into this, and again, because you come in here and this is at the top and this is second, I may have started playing with that Wi-Fi module, but inside this, it tells you, and it's got big words right here that says to me, don't mess with your Wi-Fi. It says Wi-Fi firmware update only needed for systems shipped in 2019. I don't remember if I didn't see that or whatever. I know I did come in here and download this, which is the ESP32 Wi-Fi firmware and updater for October 2019 update. I don't want to go back and put this firmware on the Wi-Fi module and then try to upgrade it to the new, because I can get things messed up again there. I don't know what happened, why it wasn't working for 2 weeks and suddenly started working. But I'm ready to fly. I don't want to mess that up. Not quite totally ready to fly, but after a fashion I am. And this is where you see that 14550 on the original firmware, and it's also at 192.168.1.1. I don't know if you could get to this address and configure that module with the old firmware on it. I am running the November 2020 firmware on the transmitter, and I am running it on the receivers. But again, I did go on down to the Yahoo pass-through telemetry, and I did go in here and get this firmware and put on it. Do what you think is right for you. Dragon Link support hasn't given me any information. I haven't asked for it on how this should work. They were skeptical that my Wi-Fi module came glitched up. I'm going to blame it on me touching it early in this 2-week period and don't remember that I did, although I think personally, because this says in big letters, only needed for systems shipped in 2019, that I would not have, but who knows? So that's it. As far as the Dragon Link, I'm ready to fly. I've still got the throws on the Sky Hunter to um, deal with. On the Mini Talon, I've got that broken USB connector on the inside, and since we've been talking, or in the 2 weeks that I've been doing this, another version of our Duplane has been released. I was on 4.1.1 when I started this, just when the Skyhunter was finished being built and started the electronics portion of it. It went to 4.1.2, excuse me, and now it's at 4.1.3. I can flash this onto the Skyhunter. There's not a problem with the USB port on that flight controller because I put that little short 3-inch cable in there, and if I blow up anything, I'll blow up the cable, and there's a whole lot less plugging into that connector that's soldered onto that board, where if you go back and forth a little bit instead of going straight on, you can destroy it like I did on the Mini Talon. I have checked. You cannot flash through the telemetry radios, as I suspected. It has to be a USB cable, so I can't put Dragon Link on the Mini Talon and flash it through the Dragon Link. Darn it. I don't know what I will do with the getting the Mini Talon up to the current version. I may just fly it on the 4.1.0 or whatever that was on it when I finished its build. So there's a few little things that need to be done, but I've made great strides forward in the last 24 hours for getting ready to fly. The flame wheels in front of me on the table to be configured and remaidened. I had maidened it on the Crossfire just before all this other stuff started. And it's a great platform for testing ranging on the Crossfire, the Holly-Bro, the CUAV telemetry radios, the Dragon Link radios, because I can just put a mission in it and put it in altitude hold mode and stick it up 20 feet, run it out ever how many yards I want to run it, and it'll stay there. It won't fly off like an airplane. So everything's coming together. I hope this helps some of you out there. I will make a video on flashing the firmware because it's a little flaky flashing too. It really has that timing problem and fails a lot when you're trying to flash it. And I do want to get the telemetry in the TX16S working, although I don't need it now because I've got it to my Mission Planner ground station. And here you can see my little Toshiba notebook that I use for ground station in the field. It's working perfectly on the Toshiba notebook. So do have some ground control station configurations to do, but in general, I am closer than I have ever been. So with that, I will say thank you guys so much, and I hope this helps some of you out.